up. And I was fortunate to touch the lives of thousands of people in a big city and connect with a lot of folks which I continue to know. But what happened is I left there in 2011 and I decided to come back to Minnesota because my wife said, why don't you come and live in Minnesota with me? Because we weren't living together, you know. That's, sometimes that can be a perfect marriage, but I don't know. We talked on the phone every day. But I said, okay, I'm gonna resign and I'm gonna come to Minnesota. And everything went fine in St. James. I got so restless that I took a position in Sioux City, Iowa. Anyone ever heard of Sioux City?
Yep.
And I served on the staff, wonderful staff of this church called Morningside. Fantastic. And they do some very creative youth ministry things, and they take mission trips and all of that. I wasn't involved in that part of ministry, but anyway, I was there for about 6.5 years, and in the meantime, the church that I left started collapsing. And it had been just a landmark church with vibrant ministries for our community, and it just made me sick, and there was nothing I could do. But anyway, I eventually in 2020 got a phone call right before COVID and said, Pastor Paul, would you come back? We need you. And it was an LCMC congregation. And so I said yes. So the past 4 years, I've been rebuilding the church that was awesome. Awesome people, awesome setting, north of all the historic things of Philadelphia. And so I was hoping to send a few of our youth to the gathering that didn't happen. And when we got a phone call to say it was canceled, I called the national office and I said, can you tell me of any congregation that was planning to go, maybe one of them would like to come to Philadelphia and be a part of a mission trip. Because a year ago, we had a group of youth from Baldwin, Wisconsin, who came out on a bus and spent a week with us. And it turned out to be a great week for them and for us. And so I got the number for someone by the name of Kristen, in a place called Rushford. And I called, and we started this conversation about, why don't you guys come east? I mean, if you were in West Virginia, you certainly can come to Philadelphia, you know, just down the road. And so I'm so excited, and I hope I'm animated enough to be able to share this with you, that we are really thrilled that you have decided to come east and spend a few days in Philadelphia and at St. James. There are wonderful people, of course, everywhere, and there are some great people in Philadelphia. So let me just tell you about a few of those things. So we're about 100 years old as a congregation. We, like you, have a beautiful facility, and we have had all kinds of ministries over the years, and we're rebuilding all of that now for seniors and for youth and for pre-K and support groups for those who are in addictions and a bunch of other things. And one of the more exciting things that we've been doing in recent years, and you'll see this when you come this summer, is that we have a summer camp for 10 weeks for autistic kids. Kids that in many cases are very bright, but they're challenged, and they maybe can't talk or they have other issues. And so that's an ongoing program we have. We also have a program in the summer for kids locally, which we call discovery camps. Discover those things that you love or maybe would like to love about yourself and in your gifts. So that would be operational for you probably maybe when you are there as well. We also network with some other churches because we're ecumenical. So we would connect with a local Episcopal church, probably a local Baptist church, maybe even our local Roman Catholic church, so that you have a fuller complement of some of those opportunities that maybe don't exist with us, but maybe would be of interest to you in another location close by. Last year, part of what we did was go to this very impressive, large church in what we call Center City, downtown Philadelphia. And the kids did some work that they needed to have done in there. And then we went to the ocean. We spent the rest of the day in Ocean City, New Jersey, which is a beautiful town. And the kids were in the ocean, and then we had a barbecue that we had arranged for them, as it was actually their final day. My goodness, Philadelphia has so many interest destinations outside of the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, which everybody hears about. And I would be very happy to answer any questions that you have about destinations. I wanted to pick up one for everybody, but they didn't have them. You ever heard of the Reading Terminal? It's an old railroad station in downtown Philadelphia. The railroad is gone, but it's a terminal market, and it has got every kind of food you could possibly want to eat. You go up and down these aisles, and there's all these concession stands inside, so it's like an incredible market, but it's under one roof. And so you can get lost in there practically with all the different possibilities, among which, of course, in Philadelphia, would be to have a cheesesteak, which they're delicious, you know, and they make them right in front of you, and they're really not that costly. You can get them this long. You can get them like this long if you have that kind of an appetite. So the Reading Terminal would be, I think, a really exciting destination. If you're into history, of course, there is the National Constitution Center, which is right by the Liberty Bell. And I believe that's where the two candidates for president just, recently had their debate. In any case, there's just all kinds of possibilities. What I have put in front of you is something of the schedule of what we did last summer for the Baldwin, Wisconsin group. So there were different work choices, and you could go in several different destinations simultaneously. That is, nobody had to go with everybody else. You had choices, and we would do that again. And that includes, in the work project page, which is the next page over, there are different things that were scheduled, and some kids went and to like the food pantry and helped box up canned goods and things that were going to be distributed that same day. That's at an old German church very close to us, and they really loved having our help. We also have in our community one of the oldest historical societies in the city, not the main one, of course, but the community that we're in is 300 years old. So we have buildings in our community that are very old. And some very wealthy people 100 years ago put together what was called the Frankfurt Historical Society. It has one of the finest Lincoln libraries inside. It also has a museum. Anyway, they are also a destination for help in the mission trip, as well as, of course, feeding the homeless. Feeding the homeless is a biggie in Philadelphia. Putting meals together, maybe hundreds of meals, and then giving them out to people who come because they need help. And this is their meal. So we do that in cooperation with a local church. And then there is activity, of course, for not only the youth, but also adults. If there were some adults that wanted to do some of their own kinds of things, we had any number of projects available for them separately, although chaperones, of course, were needed with the kids. And the meal schedule was also, of course, something that St. James did in a room not unlike this one right here. And all three meals most days. Now your schedule is to be with us, I think, 3 days. So we'd be very happy to provide the meals that you would be most interested in, and so you can help schedule what that is. Now, when it comes to housing, depending on the size of your group, one of the things that I'd like to suggest for you to consider is that if you team up, especially the girls, that you could stay in some of our homes in the neighborhood. There's nothing better to come to understand a local community than to live with people who live there. And I personally have done this on some of the trips that I have taken to other parts of the country with groups, and also to Scandinavia. And I would love for you to consider that, because part of the win for us is to be able to show you who we are and experience Philadelphia realistically. A lot of times people go on what are kind of cookie cutter tours and trips. We don't do that. So those, you can choose to stay in the building, and our building is entirely air conditioned, so you'll need that in July in Philadelphia because it gets hot. But and you can bring, the sleeping bags and, whatever you feel comfortable with. But one of the things that I would like for you to consider, and I think more so for girls, because you guys probably want to take more showers than the guys do. We are creating a whole new shower room in St. James. We have one right now. We'll have another one by the next July. So, but we can't accommodate all the people who want to take showers on any one morning. Although we have 10 restrooms in the building, so there's plenty of destinations to go to brush your teeth or other things. And so I don't know if I've answered anything, but that's where I want to start. And by the way, I have some brochures. I didn't expect this many people, but I have brochures, half of which introduce some of the things going on at St. James right now. And also some brochures that show our building. They all show our building, but that speak to our mission trips. So maybe you could just pass these out. So half of them are, these are describe our ministries.
Okay.
And these are mission trip.
We can always make copies.
Questions?
The community that you would like, if people want to stay at their houses, Would they be members of the church that you belong to?
Probably both. We have a very good community rapport with our neighbors. And so right now, it would be who's available and who's willing. And that would include families in St. James, as well as find people who are Christians and who live in the community.
Pastor, could you tell us more about some of the mission projects? I know that you just mentioned some, but other options in the neighborhood, other things that tell us about mission work that we could partner.
So we have a partnership with a number of organizations, including what's called the Northwood Civic Association. Northwood has some of its own projects. They meet at St. James on a monthly basis, but they have their, as it were, hand on the pulse of some of the things, needs in our community that we don't. And so they would be one of the resources that I would be in touch with, around would you be interested in having some kids from Minnesota help you with some of those things? Like I said, there are several churches that have some of their own kind of niches, including food pantry, feeding the homeless. We don't do that, but we are a community center where people come to us for especially some of their emotional, spiritual, and other needs. And so depending on when Vacation Bible School happens, Vacation Bible School might be something that you could plug into on that week if we choose to schedule it then, which we might just do. So that some of you could be involved with that program.
We are coming on a bus,
Mm-hmm.
a big bus.
Yep.
Is that gonna be a problem with getting to any of these things that you've done before?
Well, last year when the Wisconsin group came, they came in a big bus too. And I learned a very important lesson because I love showing people the city. We got down some streets that were very difficult to get out of for a bus driver. So what we may do is park the bus for some things, park it at St. James, and we'll have some of our own people do, the chauffeuring around. And so that's a good question. And Philadelphia, is a very old city. And so we don't have, some streets are very narrow. And that even includes our area, not right at the church, but not far away. And you can't possibly go to Philadelphia and not see what we call Old City. And in fact, it's one of the things I want to talk to you about is whether each of the days that you're at Philadelphia, you can divide it up in different segments. So you might do work projects in the morning and maybe early afternoon. Then you take off for the day and you go sightseeing, for example, to different places. And that's what they did last year.
Maybe get out of that heat of the noon too, huh?
Yeah. Although that's one of the, I think, the neat things about being able to go be away from home, but at a certain point, visit hosts and crash, as we say. I don't know what you say, but in Philly we would say crash, and you spend your rest of the day, evening, doing some things. it may include doing some fun things at St. James. So for example, we love volleyball, and we'd love to play you in volleyball. We could probably arrange to have a softball game, you know. So sports, we have a guy at St. James by the name of Andre, who is our athletic director, and we would love to challenge you if you're game.
Sounds good. Do you have basketball hoops around?
Start practicing.
We do, and in fact, we have access to a wonderful gym, which is a private boys and girls club.
Okay.
And so we can make that a destination. You'll love it. It's a great gym. Nobody's saying anything over here.
I think they all said they like to get up at like 4 a.m. and start working.
Right, yeah, earlier the better.
I heard that too.
Well, if that's what you'd like to do,
That side of the room.
we can try to make that happen.
Would you like to move sides? No.
Could you tell us about your neighborhood?
Okay, so our immediate neighborhood is, the housing is all about 100 years old. But these are big homes. Philadelphia is a city of 1.5 million people, and it's made up of many neighborhoods. So this particular neighborhood was built by a wealthier class of people, and all the homes immediately around St. James are quite large. In Philadelphia, though, we don't have as many large single homes, and there are some, and you may even stay in a few of the single homes that we have in the neighborhood, but they're what we call twins. So it's two houses that are joined together with a common, what we call a party wall. So it's like two families, and they have separate entrances into their homes, but they're large. And then, not far from us, we have what is now called townhouses, but in Philadelphia they're called row houses. And they've been the majority housing for the majority of Philadelphians for hundreds of years. And they copied it from London, because if you go to London, you'll see the same kind of housing. It's a whole block of one building, and there's just 20 or 30 different entrances. You go to Dublin, you'll see the same thing. So Philadelphia pretty much copied that kind of architecture, you know. So depending on what you were willing to spend, you might have a very modest one, and we have whole neighborhoods, old factory neighborhoods that have those kinds of homes. But what's happening in Philadelphia, because real estate is becoming more and more valuable, is that homes that maybe didn't seem to be that valuable are becoming more valuable because of their location. And so we have a whole section of the city, not that far from where we are, but north of downtown, that is now the really yuppie place to live. And it's all that kind of housing.
And how many do you anticipate if we would stay with some of the area neighbors? Would you do like 4? Or?
I don't think we do more than 4.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe 2,
Oh, 2. Okay.
you know.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it could be 2 with a chaperone, or depending on the comfort level of those, you know, that would be your decision to make. And but I've already started asking some of those folks, would you be willing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have this one family in our church that has a summer condo on the ocean, and they have really, really large single home. In fact, that's where my car is parked right now, in their driveway. And so I'm gonna ask them if maybe they would just give me their key, you know, and we'd have the whole house.
I'll chaperone that location. Anybody?
I don't know that that'll work out, but anyway,
You never know.
nothing ventured, nothing gained. That's what I
right.
used to hear.
Yeah.
That's how we connected. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
You mentioned homelessness. Could you speak to some of the other challenges facing the community in your particular context?
Okay, so what's happened over the last probably 20 years is that the Hispanic population of Philadelphia has grown immensely. And so we just started classes in English for Spanish residents at St. James last month because it's our newest ministry now. Many of the people who live locally know English. And they have moved from New York, they've come from the Dominican Republic, from Ecuador, a whole variety of places outside of the country. And so my hope is that we're going to be a destination for them as well as for others, and that some of them will choose to want to be a part of St. James. So that's one thing. So then we also have a sizable African American population, mostly to the east of us, but one of the wonderful things about our setting is that we have a very solid middle-class population of people of all kinds of ethnicities and racial backgrounds. And it could be, you know, a new experience for you. And it was for me years ago when the community that I'm not serving again had absolutely no Black people, no Hispanics, no anybody except, you know, Caucasians. And I've come to love these people as much as I would anyone, and feel that I've been enriched by just having that experience. And St. James has that kind of membership. So we are a multicultural church. You guys going to school tomorrow?
If they have.
Let's see, what is, oh, it's Thursday tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably there's a football game, there's probably a volleyball game, yeah. So, you know.
Well,
they have to go to school to play, so.
I thank you for the opportunity. I thought about you coming down here. The music on the radio of the truck I'm driving was so bad. I turned my radio off, and I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to meditate and think about Rushford. And so that's what I did.
And that got you 20 miles? And no, they don't have a ton, but.
No, what I asked myself is, self, where is this place? Oh gosh.
Driving and driving.
It's a jewel, and
The colors are probably pretty, huh? Some of the colors?
No.
Not quite.
I don't think so.
No, I haven't changed yet. You have to go further north,
Just
maybe.
your setting,
Okay.
you know, and
Flat, the hills.
the river runs through it, or whatever this is down here.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
coming down that like ravine from 90 on 43. Boy, was that fun.
Is
really-
it flat in Philadelphia, I'm guessing?
I can take you to some sections of the city that are not flat.
Okay.
No, where we are, it's flat, but it is a rolly countryside. And right outside the city, it's quite rolling. Yeah. It's a beautiful residential area in its entirety. No better than Rushford, of course.
You're right.
Would
I don't know
you,
what the students want to know. What do you guys want to know?
are we done?
I guess.
Are we
Well,
done?
yeah.
Do you want me to just have a prayer with you?
Yeah.
Yes, sounds great.
Awesome God that you are. Your handiwork is everywhere, and your Holy Spirit is among us. And you touch us in some of the most unusual times and places. Who would have thought that we'd be together talking about Philadelphia tonight? But we are. Thank you for Rushford and Destiny Church, for those who you have just tapped on the shoulder and said, won't you be mine? We thank you for giving us a purpose and a reason, not only as we live daily, but that you give us a destination, even to places that we wouldn't consider going. And so, Lord, I ask your blessing upon not only this conversation, but where it takes us now in this next year, and that those persons in this room and others might have an experience of a lifetime in the building blocks of what it means just to be in fellowship with you and each other. I commend them to you in Jesus' name. Amen.